Welcome to Offset, Larry and the Big Man, two-time Stanley Cup champion and Sportsnet hockey analyst Jay Caulfield, along with Dave Ricchini, who's the master of our numbers here. And before we get in, this is exciting, guys. When you get wins, it's amazing how much more fun everything is. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Meanwhile, we want to thank you, and we want to thank One Team Media, Ryan Jorgen, Logan Douglas, Mark Coddington, Brian Hess, who's the man behind the One Team team. And from Odyssey Pittsburgh with our 5 radio stations, my boss, Michael Spatchapoli, in just a little bit. We'll get to 93.7 fans, Andrew Fillipponi. But let's start with takeaways from Sunday's game. Surprise, I think that was the biggest surprise of the NFL weekend. Dave?
One of the, for sure. Yeah, I mean, quick thoughts. Win the turnover battle 6-1.
Yeah.
It's hard to lose a football game when you're winning the turnover battle by +5. And Jonathan Taylor, I know you'll talk more with Pony later on, but limiting him to 45 yards rushing.
Yeah.
He can't. That's 3.2 yards per carry, by far the lowest of the season. So those are the two big takeaways, because the offense did enough to win the game, but the defense was the story.
Yeah, I think Indy got comfortable. They're up 7-0 and kind of casual. And to Dave's point, they stopped giving. They really didn't feed Jonathan Taylor. I didn't think he got as many carries. They went away from it a little bit, but they were in full control. And then you get the strip sack, and then they kind of take over from there. So that's just the way that game seemed to look. And then the defense, as we know, and Dave mentioned the 6 turnovers, then they took over. And I think Aaron Rodgers, he just commands, even though the ball's not going deep, we don't see that, but what he does so well. He always gets guys in stride out of the backfield. So they're making the most of short little routes that they're doing. And I think he just commands that automatic respect in the huddle, and they believe they can win when they're getting the stops and they take it over. And that game happened. That seemed to be that way for me as I watched as that game moved on.
Could have been very frustrating early because they were dropping his passes that were on target, but obviously they started making up for it. But that said, the turning point.
Yeah. I was just about to kind of give it away right there, but my turning point, truthfully, was the T.J. Watt strip sack.
T.J. Watt.
Yeah. And Larry, you're so good at that, Pigman. So the truth, it's 7-0. Indy's driving again, right? And they had to look like they felt they were going to go in and pad the lead. And that strip sack, and it was done. When you see the highlight or the replay of it, was perfect, right? The way he gets his hand on the ball, then controls it. That, to me, was a turning point in the game. From there, then the Steelers, were able to make their move offensively and go. But it was such a great job. And you need that. From your best players, that's what you need to happen, and they got it.
I'll add, obviously, a huge play, but the Peyton Wilson interception, too, in the second quarter. At that point, it was tied. Again, the Colts were driving.
It was clean, too.
Yeah.
It
was. There's no way Daniel Jones saw him. It just he must have missed him completely.
Yep.
Because he threw it right to him. But that then, good return inside the red zone, and then the Pat Freiermuth touchdown to get in the lead for good. I think that was also a key play.
Yeah, Wilson is playing at a high level. Don't forget, he tipped one, and then rookie Ohio State Buckeye Jack Sawyer gets his first NFL pick. And
he's all over the field, and he's angry all over the field. Like, you can see his aggression everywhere, like on the open field. And they kind of tackle, really aggressive.
And they were hitting hard.
Yeah.
On Sunday. I mean, they were making them pay on every play.
I think, and we've talked about this now, right, Deb? I think anything when you've had a couple of weeks where everybody's on you, everybody's down. They were embarrassed in their games that they played, and I would expect them to come out something like that. I expected it last week, to be honest. I expected them to have an effort like that last week, but they came out certainly this time around and dominated. And up front, I mean, Cam Hayward, too. I'm not going to leave that. I mean, block pass here, block pass there. But the way they were controlling the line of scrimmage and let their linebackers do the work, keeping guys off of the backers, to me, is great all the way around.
That's your point, too, Jay. Aaron Rodgers, after the game, said that, Jalen Ramsey on Saturday night gave a speech to the team, and he said something clicked there. So, again, there's a lot of raw moments in sports, players only meaning whatever. But he said something, and it worked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you have that type of leader in the locker, look, you can see T.J. Watt's going to lead by example, and the players are going to do that. Cam Hayward lead by example, But sometimes you need something else to be said, and they bring in a player like Ramsey, I would think, for those kind of reasons. Whether his attitude on the field, but they certainly now needed it in the locker room, and the team needed to hear it. And the way guys are talking about it, and the way Dave said Aaron Rodgers spoke about it, that goes a long way. And it was something they all picked up on.
Well, whatever it was, it worked, and hopefully they can replicate that. We'll get into more details with 93.7 The Fan's Andrew Fillipponi. Also get an update on his big miss prediction a couple of weeks ago. If you know, you know. If you don't, you'll know. Meanwhile, just a footnote, I noticed that the coverage on CBS, they kept focusing on Danny Smith, the special teams coach, chewing gum. Imagine, it's all he was doing. They go, Danny Smith must have a strong jaw, and he got this big chew, and he's chewing gum, bubble gum. They're trying to guess how many sticks of gum he was chewing. What entertains.
If it was bazooka, it was 7 pieces of bazooka.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay? If it sticks, it's a little different.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
All right, let's go over last week's predictions.
Ooh.
Jay, you said 35-21 Indy.
Yeah, I did.
Dave, 24-20. You were close to the score, but
Wrong team.
yeah, and I said 24-21 Indy. I think a lot of people were surprised by the results of that game. It was 27-20, but it was actually, they let some late scores.
Yeah.
They were really in command in that second half. So
that's the kind of game they needed, right? And again, I really thought it would have been a week before. Truly did. I thought that was going to be the kind of response game you would get, but they did it against, the best in the AFC, or record-wise, coming in, right?
Daniel Jones was rattled. First time this year he actually
Yeah, he had
rattled.
happy feet. Looked like you'd see him, and but he got so many passes knocked down. Like even the one you mentioned, Larry, tipped in the air. And Sawyer picks it off first. The guys did a good job. If they couldn't get there, they took those. They got their arms up, but he also made Daniel Jones made a lot of great throws too. Like in the early part of the game.
Yeah.
That's why I made the point about they kind of abandoned the best runner in the game statistically in this game. I thought Indy did. And they got themselves, then they got too cute. They got too cute and got away from what has gotten them to where they are. Then they're chasing the game. We talk about it in hockey, we talk about it in football. You're chasing the game, now you've lost your identity as far as running the ball, throwing the ball. The Steelers were just too good. It's a better job.
All right, that said, Yinzer Dog of the Week. This is going to be a tough call because you had so many contributors. Dave, you want to start?
I'll start with, I think my top three are all on the defense. Nobody on the offense. Again, the name we talked about before, early in the season, Peyton Wilson. You mentioned him. 14 tackles, led a team, had the interception, had the tip ball and the other interception, 2 key plays of the game. He's got to be up there. TJ Watt, as you mentioned, possibly the turning point of the game. And then I'll give Alex Highsmith a name too. 2 sacks, forced fumble. It in my opinion, has to be one of the defenders because the defense won the game for them on Sunday.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have all defenders too. I had Wilson as well, Peyton Wilson, for the same reasons Dave mentioned. I had Jalen Ramsey in there because you talked about the speech, but I thought the tackle he made, like an aggressive tackle early in the game.
Set the tone.
Yeah, there was just something about it. And the way they're moving him around, it doesn't matter where he's at. That's the attitude. There's the attitude. I talked about Aaron Rodgers' attitude on the offensive ball. Jalen Ramsey brings an attitude on the defensive side that everybody needs to pick up on. So I have him, and I had Highsmith also. So I said my difference was Ramsey in that, but Wilson and Highsmith.
I think we got to give it to Peyton Wilson. Even his own teammates recognized it. Although Highsmith and Ramsey, he was playing a new position too. They asked him to move around, and whatever that was worked. It helped. But Peyton Wilson had a day of days, again, against the number 1 offense up until yesterday in the NFL.
Yep, I agree with that. I agree.
So
no problem with that.
Peyton Wilson will get an original Yinzer Dog tailgate package with the original dogs, Stanley Fikachowski, Kielbasi, Babushka, Mama Pierogies, and Yinzer Halush.
Man, am I hungry. Every time I hear Larry say that, it just makes me hungry. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, we'll be opening a brick and mortar in Cranberry, 2 doors down from the Milkshake Factory, right across from the Muse Center, a place you're very familiar with.
It's awesome.
Jay.
Can't
That's
wait.
a great spot up there. A lot happening in Cranberry. Look
Can't wait for
forward
it.
to that here in the next week or two. So that said, around the NFL, what other games did you lock in on outside of the Steelers Colts?
You know, it was kind of wacky. I'll go first, David. I'll just go on the NFC side, Green Bay and Detroit. This is what I said. Green Bay both going down to teams that,
How about that?
yeah. Listen, I have felt all along. I don't know what it is about Green Bay for me. I said this before they came into town here. I mean, I know they can be good, but I just think they're a little over. The guy they ran it right down their throats. This guy ran for 135 yards against them, and again, they can be good, but it may be a little overrated. And because when you watch, I say that because when you watch the Buffaloes, the Kansas Cities, the perennial ones that are there every year, and everybody has missteps. Not against Carolina. Shouldn't happen against Carolina. That's my opinion, right? So for me, first off, right off the bat in the national, on the NFC side, Green Bay and Detroit going down to Minnesota. Two real surprises yesterday.
Yeah, when you said Steelers' biggest surprise, that's why I was hesitant, because I think losing at home to Carolina as a 2-touchdown favorite, 1 for 5 in the red zone for the Packers, and not just losing the game, Tucker Kraft, who Steelers fans are well familiar with, out for the year now with a torn ACL.
Yeah.
So that's going to affect them. He was
Big
the
time.
main weapon for that offense in the passing game. So no Tucker Kraft. The Lions, just coming off the bye was surprising.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell coming off a bye, he even said, he goes, I didn't have the team prepared. Only 65 yards rushing against the Vikings. And credit to J.J. McCarthy. He came back from injury, 2 touchdowns throwing, 1 rushing. So nice job by him. And then those two teams, people thought those are the two, the class of the NFC. And then the Rams continue to win. Matthew Stafford, 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah, he's
This
been
season.
unbelievable. Yeah. Again, now I'm going to go on Dave's side too. I have the Rams and the Seahawks. When you watch the Seahawks the other night, they're good. And their defense, they're hungry. They're after it. Their running game is great. Sam Darnold was outstanding. So they're both tied in the West, right? They're tied.
They have
Two good teams, and they will run. When I talked about Green Bay, and I watched the Rams play, and I watched the Seahawks play, and I watched the Lions when they're at their top of their game, I don't think Green Bay hangs with them. They don't have. Micah Parsons brought something different. I think the other guys all of a sudden felt they're a little bit on a free ride, and they're getting run over and giving games that doesn't happen to the great teams to me. Those other teams can be better.
Seattle's 11-1 on the road under Mike McDonald.
That's
awesome.
In the National Football League is an incredible stat. And let's dial back. Unfortunately, with Lamar Jackson back on last Thursday night, it looks like the Ravens are back. So it's a good thing the Steelers won, but Cincinnati found a way to lose, so that helps. And they were, losing, then winning, then got beat by the Bears, a future opponent of the Steelers. So, but thanks to the Bears, that helped the Steelers out.
I got one other thing to add to the Cam Little, 68-yard record in the NFL, field goal. I mean, I don't think they did enough justice to it yesterday. I mean, to realize it goes back, go back to Tom Dempsey. You remember that day?
They have a shoe in the Hall of Fame.
And the guy,
it does. The shoe of Tom Dempsey's.
Do you remember how nasty everybody was about? I mean, because he had a club foot, right? So Tom Dempsey did. So they said when it was harsh about it. He kicked it. I think a guy kicked it. I think the way all kickers are today. To me, if you're not consistent over 50 yards, you're not in this game. And the guys are so good. But a 68-yarder indoor. It was in Vegas, but amazing to me.
Well, there have been 7 60-yard field goals in the NFL this year. That's already the most in a single season.
Including our own Chris.
Yeah, he's the most.
Boswell.
Yeah, it's amazing when he gets some of the game and the look he has, and he just does his job. Phenomenal.
Little had a 70-yarder against the Steelers in the preseason.
Oh yeah.
This year.
Yeah, they didn't.
So,
They didn't give him his just due at all. You're right, Jay.
Yes, it was before.
He had missed the last 2 or 3 field goals before that. So, but the Jags ended up winning because of that. So
that's what I want to see. I want to see a coach send him out for a field goal when it's not up against the half. Because if you miss that, then the other team's got the ball to 40 going in already.
Oh, you're probably
So
right. Now it might not even. So it might not happen. Probably doesn't happen maybe at that time, right? Just because of the positioning of it. I agree. It's a good point, Dave. Yep.
Then
all right, before we get into the World Series, there was an incident while watching football for our partner here, Dave. What were you doing? Slicing Was it pizza while watching Seattle?
I wish I could say I was. So what happened was, when I watch games, everything's very calculated. So the pizza, I cut the pizza in between our conference call and the end of the Bills-Chiefs game. So that was taken care of. Halftime of the Seahawks game, that's when I go upstairs to do all the dishes, so that, keep the wife happy,
Oh, look at you kicking
So
it.
I'm doing all that.
Press.
Well, I had a pizza cutter, so it's in the sink, and I would go to pick it up, and you can't really see it there. I'll show you. Just a little nick. Much
I'm
better.
surprised you're here today.
I know. Well, I tried to call off sick, but Jay won't let me. This is much better than, so this thumb, probably about 2 years ago, I got one of those blenders, the Ninja blenders. Those blades are sharp. And the same thing, being a good dad, making smoothies for the kids before school. Go to wipe the blade with a washcloth, goes right through it, and it just.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
So I don't go to the
Well,
hospital.
I know what you mean.
I can still feel it. I can still feel it. I don't have all the senses there, but again, I go to urgent care, and it's all wrapped, and I'm sitting there for like 2 hours before I even see it. And it's
urgent care.
Stops bleeding. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, no, we got to stitch it up. So then they open the wound back up, and they stitch it up right there. That was one of the most painful, probably not as painful as Pony's nipple piercing, but one of the most painful things whenever they had to stitch that up.
Well, we're appreciative of you being here today after the defense incident.
Dave showed you that finger injury like my 2-year-old granddaughter, Violet, would show her mom. I don't see. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Dave, that's perfect.
You did do that, Dave. Very good, Dave. Very good.
I think the question as we wrap up and get ready for Andrew Fillipponi about the World Series is, where were you when you were watching? And I was over the United States flying back with the Pitt team from California. We were all watching on the team plane. And it's funny, no matter who you talk to, it seemed like everybody was locked in. And Jay, you said they were showing it on jumbotrons at hockey games.
Yes. Yeah.
What a World Series, no matter who you were rooting for. I don't know, Pittsburghers probably generally wanted Toronto to win because underdog haven't won one. They have the biggest payroll in Los Angeles. You figured this might be fun. And they had their chance.
Well, they won in 93 and they beat the Phillies. Joe Carter.
Went back to back. 92 and 93.
Yep. So that was the last one they had.
That's right. That's so far that people forgot about
it. They did. It's a whole new group of fans that are watching. Like, I think that you're over, flying back from your, the great trip that you were on out west and coming back to work the Steeler game, and you get to see what that was all about. I can't remember that much. I mean, it's always interesting in the World Series and what goes with that when it's whatever teams, but there was a huge following with that, and I saw it. Like you said, having Toronto be a part of it involved hockey. Then you see the hockey players all talking about it, teams across, and they did have it on jumbotrons in arenas as the games. It's kind of wild to me. I don't remember that ever before.
They cheered louder in Edmonton when they thought that
across the plate,
Kiner left across the plate than they did for the Oilers' goal moments before that. So they had it on. You could see the one video. They're showing the game, the hockey game, then the other square is the baseball game.
I got one just critique, and maybe you can shoot it down, but I think if he runs across the plate, does not slide, didn't have to be tagged. It was right. If he runs through, like my dad used to tell me all the time, or even my wife's a sprinter in college, was in right.
Slide head first.
Well, even then you're leaving. But if you just continue your sprint to the plate, are you not crossing that? I'd love to have anybody tell us, maybe a head first slide or whatever, but I think if you just run into first base, if you run through the base and don't try and extend your leg, you're better running through it than lunging, a long stretch for a run. I wonder if he ran through the plate, what that would look like.
We got to give Jay an email. BigManBlitz.com.
Yeah. I felt for them. They all said they thought they had it there. They did think they had it.
And so did most people.
I know.
That just in that moment, and then you realize that would have been the end of the series. That would have been But first team to repeat since the Yankees three-peated 25 years ago.
It's unbelievable. That's hard to do.
I like the Game 7. I kind of liken it to when I used to play video games, and you get to that final stage, you have to go through all the bosses that you defeated early on. That's how it was, because the Dodgers uses 4 starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Start off with Otani, and then they get, Glasnow's in there, Snell, and then Yamamoto, who pitched the night before and then came in. He's remarkable.
Remarkable. Yeah, he's the guy. What he did was unbelievable.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Jay. Yep. But let's get ready to check in with 93.7 The Fan's Andrew Fillipponi. Afternoon show with Chris Muller. They call them the PM team, here for an update. Andrew, who's a new man this week.
Hi, Larry. I'm actually an old man again because I had them removed. So I'm back to my normal self.
Yeah, before we get into the details, I think it's only fair we do a follow-up. And this goes back now a couple of weeks, but the payoff was last Wednesday night, where you raised a lot of money for breast cancer research. So do a reset for folks that I can't imagine there are many who are unaware of what transpired.
Yeah. So I picked the Steelers to beat the Bengals. I was wrong. And I was so confident the Steelers were going to win. I went on Twitter and said, if the Steelers lose this game, I will get my nipples pierced. And they lost in spectacular fashion. And then I was forced to pay it off. Now, the good thing that came out of it was we partnered with McGee Institute and Foundation. And so they're doing incredible things in Pittsburgh as far as breast cancer research goes, including coming up with a breast cancer vaccine that they think is going to completely be a game changer in the fight against breast cancer. So they jumped on board. It was the craziest, weirdest, I think kinkiest, as they called it, fundraiser event they had ever done in their lives. But they jumped in with me, and we sold out Mike's Beer Bar Wednesday night. I had my nipples pierced. It was excruciating. I'm a baby. I'm not like Jay, who, took punches to the face for a living and played big time college football. So I wasn't used to that kind of pain, but I did my grin and bear it routine. And then Friday night, I had both piercings removed, and people are imploring me, guys, to now auction them off and give that money to charity. There might be somebody out there that wants both piercings.
Well, appreciate the update, and I do want to thank Jay. Mario was kind enough to help donate it.
Yes.
Auction item, which is very generous.
No, well, Nancy Angus and the Lemieux Foundation and Mario, they're just so great about it, and they're very happy and what a great cause, Andrew. And again, you went through a lot, so we're glad you're still here with us today.
All right. That said, I got to give you credit, because when you talked about the Steelers hosting the Colts, as you know, the fan base was pretty sour after the last two defensive performances in particular prior to the game. And you kind of walked it and said, wait a minute, what did you see that led you to believe that this upset was possible?
Well, the first thing was this was a first for the Colts. They were going to play a game in a true road environment. And I think we see it at all levels of sports. It's one thing when you either have your home crowd behind you or you're playing in what amounts to a neutral site. Those games are different from when you play in front of a loud, raucous, opposing stadium. And it didn't start that way with how the Colts scored that opening drive touchdown, but it turned into a stadium that obviously they had to account for with things like silent counts and dealing with noise and kind of the added pressure that comes with that. I also do think for them, they got very comfortable playing on artificial surfaces indoors. And we see this with teams. You take a team from, say, Miami and make them play in Buffalo in January, or you take a team from Pittsburgh and you make them play a September game in Tampa or Miami where the humidity's 95% and it's real field temperature of 110 in September. So I do think these things, when teams are used to one thing and get taken out of their comfort zone, I do think it's fair to ask if they're going to still be the same team. And then the other thing that I think is just very obvious about the NFL is that there's kind of this regression to the mean with all teams, where there are very few teams that over the course of 18 weeks are able to sustain a high level of play. And the thing I asked about the Colts was, all right, Daniel Jones has been great, but do we really think he's going to be great every week? At some point, that bubble is going to burst. And I thought we saw that happen Sunday. So, yeah, I wish I had put a piercing bet up on this game. If I had done that, then I wouldn't have the scars I have on my body now.
So, Andrew, the defense dominated the line up front and things that went with that. I also thought Indy, and Dave and I and Larry have talked about this off air, but they kind of abandoned Jonathan Taylor, if you will. And by the way, they were up until the 11-minute mark of the second quarter, they were in full control. And that strip sack by TJ Watt, if you look at a game changer, that was the game changer.
Yeah, you know what else? I agree, and everyone, and Mike Tomlin said it after the game, and all of Watt's teammates, Aaron Rodgers, said the same thing, that was really where you saw the pendulum swing to the Steelers, and it's right. So, I'm not going to disagree with that at all. But if I'm going to give a hockey assist, like a secondary assist to a big play, I thought right after that happened, the Colts rally to the ball. It's a little dump off to Kenneth Gainwell. It's a dead play. I mean, it is a humongous loss. The play goes nowhere. It looks like the Steelers are going to have like 2nd and 15 or longer after this play. And then a flag gets thrown because the guy in the process of trying to make a helmet, he didn't even really grab the face mask. He more or less just clubbed Gainwell in the face. And that was a 15-yard penalty. That penalty, I thought, started the Steelers' offense. It gave them a little bit of a push that they needed because, as they said on the broadcast, guys, that was their first down of the game. They went the entire first quarter of the game without a first down, and they needed a personal foul penalty, I think, on the Colts to really get them going, and then they did that push play with Hayward, which I like on that drive to extend it. They were more aggressive in terms of 4th down there too. So, yeah, I mean, it had the feel of a lot of Colts games this year where they jump on the opponent and then they ride that wave. And I think one significant thing happened, the Watt play, and then a little bit less significant thing happened with that penalty, and it gave the Steelers offense the boost that it needed.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of people crediting TJ Watt's strip sack and recovery as the moment of change in the game. Pat Freiermuth got more involved in the offense once again, ends up with a touchdown. They seem to have found a little more balance with the tight ends.
Well, I have a hard time with this one because I kind of agree with what Rodgers said after the game, Larry. I did not think their offense was that good. They averaged under 2 yards per carry. We saw DK Metcalf, and I know we're going to get to that later, so I'm not going to go in depth on that, but we did not see him have a huge game. I still think there are a lot of things that are lacking with this offense. Now, the one thing they did do was when they got turnovers, they capitalized. They had 24 points off turnovers and 3 touchdowns. So those turned into 6 points, not 3 points, which is obviously how you beat the highest scoring offense in the NFL. But it's a good thing the defense picked yesterday to have its first 6 takeaway game in 15 years because I thought the offense took a pretty serious step backwards based on where they had been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we just said you mentioned DK Metcalf, and I do agree with that. There's something to really compete, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, but they won't because they won against one of the best in the AFC. But you need your deep threat, and DK Metcalf with, somehow they got to find a way. By a little more time, you need to find the deep threat. You have to be able to stretch the field at some point or let him do his work and yards after catch take place. But somehow he's got to be a guy that's involved way more than what we've seen.
And he's really only been involved one way, which is Rodgers gets it to him fast.
Yep.
And then it's up to DK Metcalf to kind of stretch the play and turn it into a big play. He did catch I would say a kind of a downfield touchdown against the Browns to put that game away. But for the most part, we haven't seen these deep shots from Rodgers to this guy. And we know he's such a great athlete. He can run by a lot of corners. And if he needs to get physical with corners to make a contested catch, he can do that too. It's really confounding to me because Rodgers has moved better. So I do think you can trust him and give him a little bit more time to make a play. All of his throws were within 10 yards against Indy. Okay, there was no downfield passing whatsoever. And when the season started, I think that was an indictment on their offensive line, not trusting it. The offensive line has gotten at least a little bit better. So I think they need to do that and take some more chances downfield to open up the offense for everybody. And I think DK Metcalf has got to be one of those guys. The other thing is, Jay, I'm sure that the way the defense is playing the Steelers, there's probably help over the top that's making it hard for them to try to get the ball there, which speaks to the Steelers' need, I think, to go out and get another weapon here at the trade deadline.
That said, how do you see this game rolling out in Los Angeles with the Chargers?
Well, I'm a freak, so I went and watched the entire Chargers game last night after Sunday Night Football ended. And, I was not impressed. They went to Tennessee. They played a close game against a terrible team. They got down 7-0 because Herbert threw a pick six. Herbert only threw 4 interceptions all of last year. He's already exceeded that number. I think they're asking him to make more plays, and with that, there's going to be the give and take of when he's more aggressive, there's going to be some mistakes that get made. They do have, I think, quality depth at wide receiver. The tight end from Syracuse, my alma mater, has had a huge year. Gadsden, who was a late pick, has just come on like gangbusters for them. But really the story there, guys, is their offensive tackles are out. Sean Slater, who they gave $100 million to in the offseason, got hurt in training camp, was the big training camp injury of the NFL this year. He hasn't played, so there goes number one, your best left tackle. And then your right tackle, who was a top 10 pick, whose dad was an NFL All-Pro, who was an All-American at Notre Dame, Joe Alt, he got carted off the field with a serious ankle injury yesterday. So they're down to backup tackles, and they got a backup guard in. So 3/5 of their starting offensive line is out. Oh, by the way, their first-round pick running back is out, and Najee Harris, we know, is out for the year. So they're down to a third-string running back. There's no reason that they should be able to run the ball on the Steelers' defense, and there's no reason that Justin Herbert should have time to throw the ball after what we saw from the Steelers' defense on Sunday. So there's going to be a ton of Steelers fans there. I give the Steelers a good shot to win this game and go on the road and beat a pretty good team.
Okay, one quick question, too, on the tight end stuff one more time. Geno Smith, they just can't seem to find a way to get him involved. Obviously, I mean, if he made the first catch that we saw, the first play in the beginning of the game, that would have certainly helped. But somehow, of size, the athlete that he is, it'd be nice to see him get sprung open. But we got Freiermuth, you got Washington. He seems to now be the odd man out, if you will.
Well, Jay, they've got 2 tight ends who are making over $10 million, and they've got $10 million plus deals beyond this year. And I would say right now that Darnell Washington on their depth chart is the number 1 tight end. Not only does he come in now and not only is he a huge asset in their run blocking, but he's become more of a target on offense. Aaron Rodgers has thrown the ball to him on that drive where after the botched punt return, he got targeted on 3rd down and 4th down. I mean, they're turning Darnell Washington into more than just kind of a gimmick player. They're trying to turn him into a complete package tight end. And I think that means that both of those other guys are going to take on reduced roles. And
Yep.
I didn't foresee that when the season started. I also thought Jonnu Smith was going to be much better run after catch, which was how I should say, he set all kinds of Dolphins tight end records last year in Miami.
Yep.
All right, finally, what do you have to say about the Pitt Panthers? 5 in a row, including 3 of those on the road. They have a bye. They host Notre Dame at Acrisure, and then can close out with 2 teams, top teams that both lost last weekend in Georgia Tech and Miami.
Yeah, I mean, not only have they played well, now I think there were some mistakes in the second half that got to get cleaned up, and Narduzzi said as much after the game.
Yes.
They did not play a great team. So, there's obviously on this bye week some constructive things that can get done that need to get fixed in order to beat now 3 ranked teams at the end of their schedule. But, I mean, based on how those teams all played this weekend, they look way more winnable. Georgia Tech loses to NC State. Pitt blew out NC State. SMU beats Miami. Miami's lost 2 games in a row now. Notre Dame played Boston College. Boston College looked like an FCS team. I watched them play Notre Dame on Saturday, and they were like 50% conversion rate on 3rd down. They moved the ball on Notre Dame. Notre Dame was supposed to win the game by 5 touchdowns. It was a competitive game for basically all 60 minutes. We saw Pitt handle that team. So, look, every matchup is unique and different, but all I'm saying right now is if you just strictly go by how those 4 teams are playing at this very moment, Pitt, Georgia Tech, Miami, and Notre Dame, there's no reason to think Pitt can't compete with all 3 of those teams. They got to get healthy on defense. They got to get Desmond Reed back, but I don't see them as like huge, significant underdogs in any of those matchups moving forward. And honestly, I would actually be surprised if Pitt went 0-3 against those 3 teams.
Andrew, always appreciate your input.
Thanks,
Thank
Ed.
you. Talk to you next week.
You bet, guys. See ya. Be well.
Thank you.
All right, Jay. Andrew Fillipponi from 93.7 The Fan Afternoons with Chris Muller. They call them the PM team.
Yeah, we're so thankful we get Pony to join us every week. And at the same time, I also want to thank Rourke Automotive, Dave Rourke being a part of our title sponsor, and Henderson Brothers, Tom Grillish. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
And One Team Media, we got the A-team, Ryan Jorgen, Logan Douglas, Mark Coddington, and Brian Hess behind the curtain. Thank you, Brian. And also Michael Spacciapoli from Odyssey Pittsburgh. It's Offset, Larry and the Big Man. And that's a wrap.